Dear trading friends, it's time for a Sunday update video. We'll go through Bitcoin a bit. Today we'll stick with Bitcoin in the second part of the video. Let's talk about a few things in the signal group. For the trading signal group, for those who don't know it yet, I started it just a week ago. We now have 2 trades, or rather trading bots. I post a lot of trading bots in there, but also regular signals from futures trades. 2 bots have closed in profit, another Bitcoin bot is still running, and a lot of others are still in the queue. And I want to explain a bit about that, about the current market situation. But before that, I also need to do a Bitcoin analysis so that everyone in the group understands why I'm currently taking a bit of a risk-off approach. Because right now we're really not in the best phase. We now have 3 options and I want to show them to you. Let's quickly go through Bitcoin so that you can later understand why I'm acting the way I am in the signal group at this particular moment. Because with Bitcoin, we're currently in the middle range. We have 2 options that are still open to us now. The first option is the target level down here. I know nobody wants to hear that we could go that low. 75,000, 80,000, 100 up to 66,000. But this possibility exists purely according to technical analysis. If we use the Fibonacci extension. By the way, if you still don't know exactly how my analyses work or why they so often turn out so well, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I regularly explain in my update videos how my analyses proceed. I also have a playlist here, Learn Trading Step by Step to Become a Professional Trader. You can check it out. I really go through everything in detail there. I'll also show you the playlist so you can see what my approach looks like. And then in the future, you'll better understand what I'm sharing here. First of all, we had this bearish break from this structure, from this bullish structure into the bearish. And at the moment, we still haven't reached that one target level, which is down here. That means the Fibonacci extension level to this low, to the next recovery we had, would give us price targets down to 75,000 or even down to 66,000. Those are the kind of price targets we can keep in mind. But right now we still have a second possibility if I look at this here. Zoom in, because here we broke out of a falling trend. If we now pull this down like this, which actually worked out wonderfully, in this case it was exactly here, and now we have a long sideways trend, a December sideways trend, super boring. But what resulted from that? At least for a short time, if we include this, we also have another Fibonacci extension from this low to this high, then the next correction down, which would give us price targets up to 103, 106, 108. Or even 101,000 as the very first possible target could offer major resistance. So now we have 2 possibilities, either upwards or downwards. And in this phase, it's currently quite difficult. But if I now say, okay, let's look at it purely technically. Here we have, and I'll zoom in a bit as well, a bullish price action that is still running super cleanly. We have higher highs and higher lows, and that continues to be the case. To me, that obviously looks good, so we can continue to rise like this. And here, a price target of 101,000 is very relevant if this really plays out, if we continue like this. That's scenario number 1 for me. Super bullish, looks super interesting, so that it can be executed this way. Accordingly, the next long orders have already been placed simply from this February level. So if I go from here to here, I have 2 long orders here. I've already shared that in the signal group. Those are the ones I entered with the level 2 data analysis. If we really take this into account now, despite everything, we now know we have a bullish scenario. Up here above us, we also have a target label that we can reach. But now let's talk about what's currently happening in the world. We know about Greenland, we know about Iran, we know everything that's currently happening with the EU in general, what's going on between the USA, the EU, and all the new tariffs. At the moment, we really have a difficult geopolitical situation, which is why I don't see this as so political right now. I'd be happy if we reach those heights, but I'm prepared for it. We'll get to the signal group later as well, and I'll explain why I'm taking on a bit of risk here. But let's consider what is currently speaking against a breakout. If we take this into account here and draw it like this, then we're dealing with this bear flag, if we're being precise. If we look at it this way, it's actually not really a flag anymore. If we're being exact, it would be more of a bearish pennant. That's what it currently suggests. All of this can still change, but that's how it looks right now. Overall, we're in a bearish pattern. That means we go down, recover a bit, and could then break down further. First and foremost, don't lose sight of that. And especially now this double rejection, not only at this trend line, this ascending trend line where we've always faced rejection, now twice and even a third time. And I'll zoom in a bit. We had a breakout, which for many was already a possible bullish sign. But the candle closed below it. And the next candle was actually right back here at this rejection, and at the moment the price is moving down a bit. Of course, it could break out afterwards, but what else am I keeping an eye on here? Why did we also enter a short bot in the signal group? It has to do with exactly that and nothing else. We do have a small bullish structure now, but overall, the bigger overarching trend is still bearish. And now let's bring in this Fibonacci level, I'm going to remove this lower line a bit here, and then I want to show you something. We're exactly right here. We just had another rejection at the 0.618 Fibonacci during the trend continuation. And we're heading downwards once again. We must not forget the small trend down here is super clean, super positive. But of course, if we should have a bearish continuation now, it could get rejected exactly at this 0.618 Fibonacci. Maybe we'll even go higher, up to the 0.786. I want to show you something else in a moment. The 0.786 Fibonacci up here, if we should reach it, is at the first rejection level, roughly at 1.414. But if that does not happen at the moment, we actually have one of the cleanest entries at 0.618. The possibility to follow the overarching trend, and I'll clear everything away again now so you can see what I mean. I'll also remove this line here again. And also this little arrow here, so we don't forget that this was just a small pump and we haven't risen much, yet the bullish sentiment is already increasing again, meaning we could still see bearish price action here. And that this is simply due to December, that we haven't risen more strongly, but have instead consolidated for a long time. And that could actually continue to be the case. What else would support this? Let's just go through the liquidation heat map. For example, let's just look at 1 month on Binance if we go in. We simply have a lot of liquidity up to 86,000, but also at 88,000, where we still have an open CME gap. We're only talking about Binance here. But if I go further to the Model 3 data from CoinGlass, where we have even deeper insight into the liquidations. Honestly, I want to look at the chart completely neutrally. And I only make neutral content. I'm neither permanently bullish nor permanently bearish, but rather try to make the most of the market as best as I can. We've seen liquidations below us down to 93, and a bit further down as well. A very strong cluster. But just look at how brightly it lights up here at 88,000, 89,000. We're talking about 2 weeks here, so roughly what's happened this year so far. In terms of liquidations that have built up, then to me that looks super interesting so that this can be picked up. And right in this area we also have the CME gap. And I don't want to unsettle anyone, nor do I want to be too bearish because there are already long trading bots waiting here, not just for Bitcoin, but also for Ethereum. Because if I look at a 1 month time frame, this very first part that stood out so much in the 2-week range before, around 88,000 and a bit lower, does not stand out as much anymore because we are at 86,000, down to about 85,700. Roughly in that area, we have an even bigger cluster, which stands out extremely strongly. So just don't forget that. Even when we look at the 1 month chart, which is what we currently have here, the liquidity above us on Binance is located there. That's 1.54 billion, which is present at this point in time. But below us, if we take the largest liquidation cluster, there are 4.4 billion just on Binance. And that, along with the current political situation and everything else going on, is what makes me think this way. With the rejection levels at 0.618 plus the trend, which, given the bearish pennant or bear flag, whatever you want to call it, that we have, I see it as a likely scenario that we could go down again. Accordingly, I'm currently protecting myself with my trades and not going in too heavily. I'm not entering into risky long trades or long bots. That was the Bitcoin analysis. Now we'll continue with the signal group because for me it gets really interesting again when we move into the lower or upper target levels. That's when you can say, okay, you can go much heavier on shorts or longs to see another correction or recovery here. What did the situation look like back then in the dialogue? With the trading bots, just so you have a bit of an overview of why I'm not currently taking on as much risk as I did, for example, in my tests. And I'm talking specifically about those tests that I carried out here in the funded account. You can see here there were a few trades that performed really well. For example, 183%, 76%, 158%, 174%. Of course, we also had losses in this test, but as I said in a live video, I have to test this. I can't just go all out and say, hey, this works based on Fibonacci. Because if the liquidation is too close to the stop loss, the bot simply stops working. You keep getting notifications from PIONEX even though the bot is still within its crit range and there are still funds available. And accordingly, I made some adjustments. No longer using 70 times or 80 times leverage and so on, but here I have to use a bit less leverage. That's the very first thing. But the second reason why I'm now using less leverage is this. With the current bots, it's simply the current political situation. At the moment, I see more opportunities to the downside than to the upside, which is why with the long bots, if we take a look there, I think there's still another one waiting somewhere. So now in this area, there's still one waiting somewhere. At one of these Fibonacci levels, we've opened another long bot, but it's actually still underperforming. Why? Simply because of the liquidations that are currently so heavily below us in every area every week that I look into it. It's really very strong below us and I want to make sure I'm protected so that I don't get liquidated right away, but instead have a safer one with a bit more range. And even if it's in the red, it can still generate crits, meaning crit profits. And at the same time, if we should drop further and reach new liquidation levels, like for example at 88,000 where the next trading bot is already waiting, then of course I can go in again with more risk. At the moment, it's a bit difficult because we don't have a massive breakout here, but also not a massive breakdown. What we might be able to see here is that we have triggered exactly this move upwards. A breakout, a recovery, and at the moment a bit of sideways consolidation. Despite everything, there's quite a bit of liquidity waiting just below us so that we could drop below this line again. A lot of liquidity, which I have identified precisely with the level 2 data. When does it become interesting for me again to open new highly leveraged positions? When we simply break through this low to the downside? Because what do we need to do to have a clean structure that remains bullish? If we break through this level to the downside, we have a structural break in this section, which is very interesting, where I estimate that we will probably make a stop here. That's also where the liquidity lies below the CMI gap, where we could then recover to a new Fibonacci level and we could see lower prices. And then it becomes interesting again, because with the signal group, I went online a little more than a week too late. Because if you remember, I released a video. I'm going long on these altcoins. 5 altcoins have sent a strong signal. And think back, it would have been perfect if I had already had the signal group back then. Because it wasn't just with Ethereum, I also went long on Doge at that time. Doge also looks very, very interesting. This one also performed very well after the rejection. But here, I immediately went short on Doge again. We're still on XRP. I entered a long position that worked very well. I think I had H-bar, if I'm not mistaken, in a long position where the first entry was unfortunately a loss, but the second position was in profit. But here, with a crit trading bot, that would have been super interesting because it would still be running now. I went long on Cardano, but already way down here, plus a crypto trading bot, if you remember. I said, hey, this is super interesting for me right now. And I think XLM was also something, yes, XLM exactly. There was a trading loss, the second one at that level, but it was just super interesting to actually go long on all these coins, on the altcoins here. And that would have been super interesting for the signal group as well. So yes, I'm just waiting for the next bigger pump and dump, but we are prepared. Positions are placed and there are several positions set up as we go in. So if I now go to the status waiting, we have a few positions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 positions that are waiting. Futures positions and trading bots, which are now split up, are still waiting to be triggered. I do daily analyses on this and also adjust these prices if it actually becomes necessary. And one more thing in closing for the signal group. If we go in now, for example, to the trades, and I go here to the current trades we have, which I also recently shared with you. Yes, because we could face a rejection here. We have liquidation levels, we have Fibonacci levels here that are super interesting for these to be triggered. And if you say you want higher leverage, you just want a bit more risk because I play it safe. I want my portfolio to keep growing gradually through compound interest. That means every profit I make, whether with a bot or a trade, is of course added back in as an investment with my 1%, 2% or whatever I risk per trade so that I get a compounding effect and gradually let the portfolio grow. But what we have here is that you could take exactly this scenario, which I included as a futures position, and also use it as a trading bot. Just as a small example, if we take this trade here, we have an entry that we make. I also set a stop loss. That means here you can, the grid trading bot range. Just as I set the take profit and stop loss, you can enter those as well. You take the entry point I specify and you can input that too. And then you can crank up the leverage so high that you have 40 or 50 times, depending on how it works out, so that the liquidation at least has some distance. From the stop loss, where I say it should be around 2% so that the bot can keep working. At least 2%. Maybe 3% would be even better. Liquidation price here, then PIONEX wouldn't give any notifications that it can't trade within the range anymore. Of course, that's possible. Everyone can do that for themselves. Of course, I try in the signal group to have the best possible trades. And to be completely honest, every trade so far or every bot currently, and I don't want to jinx it, it will go differently at some point, but we've had this sniper entry. With Bitcoin, with Doge, when I go in, it's not just the trade I had, but if we look in the group, that was our trading bot entry and we went up. I then told you I'm closing now because we had a 0.5 rejection that was already here. It was also good that we closed because otherwise the bot would have lost a lot of the profits again. Of course, it can go up again, but for me, the point is that we want to make profits. And just take a look at this. Also, the last one I posted, XMR, which was super interesting. I shared that one live, but I hedged myself to the upside in case we went up again. You can't know with a pump like that if it'll make another liquidation move, but we analyzed it and actually down here, now the take profit has also been reached. That means beforehand, every entry was a sniper entry. Unfortunately, we missed the XRP. The bot missed just a little bit. As you can see, it wasn't much at all. it was so little that it would have already been active. But for me, with the liquidation there down below, I can imagine that we might pick that up again today or at the latest tomorrow. To have a new long entry to activate the long trade trading product so that it can continue to go up. That's how I would see it at this point in time. Because even though I said at the beginning that we have a lot of liquidity below us, we must not forget, especially XRP looks very bullish to me overall. We have broken through some lower highs to the upside here, but made a new massive high strong correction, which of course can bring us higher prices. And accordingly, I am still confident now that this bot will be triggered. Alright, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, I'd be happy if you subscribed, left a like on this video, or maybe even left a comment, or let me know what you think about it. I also go live regularly, where we look for trades and tricks. So we look for trading bot entries, like in the case of XMR, which we analyzed live and then entered into. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.